Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Please be seated, and you can give your statement now.
Betrayal leaves wounds deeper than any blade. And in this case, the wound is not just a man's death, it is the truth that was buried with him. Charlie Kirk's killing has been spun, reshaped, and retold to fit a story that may never have been real. The FBI speaks with certainty. Prosecutors insist they found their culprit. But beneath the loud declarations of authority, the evidence whispers a different story. One tangled with contradictions, disputed timelines, and ignored eyewitnesses. If Tyler Robinson is not the shooter, then this may be one of the gravest miscarriages of justice in recent history. And if the very institutions we are taught to trust have chosen expedience over truth, then the betrayal extends beyond one victim or one accused. It is a betrayal of us all. The case has exploded into the public square, and secrets long buried are being dragged into the light. Stay with us as we unravel this case piece by piece. Follow closely, because what's coming will upend everything you thought you knew. Betrayal does not usually come from strangers. It comes from those we trust, the allies we rely upon, the institutions sworn to protect us. In the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death, the official story came quickly, wrapped in neat lines. Tyler Robinson was the shooter. Case closed. But was it ever that simple? Or was Robinson the convenient scapegoat, a name easy to attach to tragedy when the public demanded swift answers? From the very start, the cracks were visible. Evidence in dispute, digital trails that didn't align, witnesses who swore they saw someone resembling the shooter walking home, yet their voices were sidelined, never given prime airtime. Despite this, the gears of prosecution kept grinding forward. The question we must ask, did those who claim to serve justice betray both Charlie Kirk and Tyler Robinson by choosing expedience over truth? If Robinson is innocent, his arrest was not justice, it was a sacrifice. A betrayal not just of individuals, but of the very foundation of fairness itself. For if the wrong man has been accused, then Charlie Kirk has been denied true justice, and Robinson denied his liberty. Every criminal case rests on its evidence, but when the evidence itself begins to unravel under scrutiny, the very pursuit of justice falters. The prosecution leaned heavily on digital messages, words they claim Robinson himself typed on Discord, a confession, they said, undeniable proof. But Discord's own representatives contradicted this narrative. Their findings were blunt. Those messages did not originate from Robinson's account. Instead, they were retellings, secondhand conversations between friends and roommates, fragments of a supposed note attributed to Robinson, but not a direct admission. In court, however, that distinction blurred, and the digital record itself is riddled with contradictions, timestamps out of sync with Robinson's alleged movements, gaps in online activity that defy the official timeline. Was he online at the very time he was said to be at the scene, or were others shaping the narrative around him, filling in blanks with assumptions? And then the human witnesses, those who swore they saw the suspect on foot, leaving the chaos. Their voices were brushed aside, eclipsed by a fragile digital trail. When confessions are disputed, timelines fractured, and eyewitnesses ignored, can we honestly say the case rests on truth? Or is it a scaffold propping up a story too brittle to stand on? Headlines often scream about digital clues, but in court, nothing weighs heavier than forensic science, DNA, fingerprints, ballistics. These are supposed to be the unshakable anchors. Yet in the Robinson case, those anchors wobble. Prosecutors leaned on ballistics tying a weapon to the crime, but early filings revealed serious questions. When exactly was the weapon collected? How was it handled, stored, tested? Even one single misstep in this chain of custody can turn certainty into doubt. and that doubt lingers like a shadow over the entire case. DNA was held up as another pillar, but closer inspection revealed something far less decisive. Partial samples, inconclusive results, mixtures with unknown profiles. What should have brought clarity instead brought only more uncertainty. If science is meant to sharpen the picture, why is it still so blurred here? Inside the courtroom, these cracks became battlegrounds. Robinson's defense pressed hard, pointing to mishandled evidence, incomplete tests, possible record manipulation. They urged transparency. Were the tests rushed? Were the results overstated? Or simply misinterpreted by those desperate for answers? In a climate of urgency, the line between fact and assumption blurred. What we know, the prosecution leaned heavily on flawed evidence. What we don't know is whether those flaws will ever be honestly acknowledged. Beyond filings and transcripts, this tragedy is measured in human lives. Charlie Kirk was not only a political figure, but a man. Still working, still speaking, still pouring himself into causes he believed in. His absence is not abstract. It's birthdays that will never be celebrated, chairs left empty at family tables, silences where his voice once was. And then there's Tyler Robinson. For many, his name is only known as an accusation, but he too has a story. A young man shaped by pressures and influences, perhaps manipulated by others, perhaps vulnerable at exactly the wrong moment. Was he radicalized, or was he simply swept into a narrative not his own? Some believe he was made the scapegoat, chosen because someone needed to take the fall. Whatever the truth, his life has been overshadowed by a case that may not reflect who he truly is. The ripples spread outward. Utah Valley University, once just a campus of ambition and study, is now haunted by vigils, by whispered conversations. Politics, too, has been shaken. When a prominent figure is lost violently, trust fractures, divisions widen, and safety feels more fragile. This is the human cost: grieving families, unsettled communities, and a nation questioning what justice even means. And yet, when tragedy collides with politics, truth becomes even harder to see. This case has raised not only questions about evidence, but about influence, about power. Central to this storm is the uneasy relationship between the FBI and groups like the Anti-Defamation League. For years, their partnership was framed as a safeguard against extremism. But when Charlie Kirk's name and the organization he built appeared in reports labeling him as dangerous, doubts grew. Were such labels responsible or political? Then suddenly, federal agencies began distancing themselves from those same reports, backtracking in the middle of a case where both innocence and legacy hang in the balance. Why now? Was it a search for truth or a move to protect reputations? Each shift only fueled public skepticism. To many, the handling of this case looks less like justice and more like control. Who controls the story and how that story shapes the future? At this point, the trial is no longer only about Robinson or Kirk. It has become a mirror, reflecting the public's growing distrust of institutions. A distrust that deepened each time evidence is disputed, each time motives seem political, each time families are left without answers. One violent act has become a symbol of broken trust, contested narratives, and widening divides. Long before the jury reaches a verdict, the public often renders its own. In the wake of Kirk's death, the court of public opinion has grown louder than any gavel. Supporters of Robinson flood social media, arguing he's a scapegoat, pointing to disputed evidence, conflicting testimony, and a system rushing to judgment. Their voices echo in hashtags, petitions, videos. On the other side, skeptics claim the case is straightforward. To them, Robinson's ties to fragments of evidence seal the matter. Every objection by the defense feels like delay, every claim of mishandling a distraction. These narratives clash in newsrooms, classrooms, and living rooms alike. Yet between them lurks the most dangerous force of all, misinformation. Rumors spread instantly, amplified by algorithms, echoed in echo chambers. A whisper becomes a headline. A half-truth becomes certainty. Families grieve while the noise of speculation buries the quiet demand for patience and truth. This is the court of public opinion, powerful, divided, relentless. A trial not judged by law, but by endless scrolling feeds. Meanwhile, the courtroom remains the stage where truth must finally stand or fall. Upcoming hearings promise to revisit the foundations. Was the evidence gathered lawfully, interpreted fairly? Was it ever strong enough to begin with? The defense plans to press harder on the Discord controversy, to challenge forensic handling, to question whether the investigation was rushed. And then there are the defense plans to press harder on the Discord controversy, to challenge forensic handling, to question whether the investigation was rushed. And then there are the unanswered questions. Was Robinson acting alone? Or was his name placed at the center of a larger scheme? Why has transparency from federal agencies been so limited? Why do sealed documents still hold crucial answers? What we know is this: the story is far from finished. Each hearing will either reinforce the case against Robinson or unravel it further. Until then, both his innocence and Kirk's legacy remain suspended, awaiting truth. In the end, this case is not only about evidence or institutions, it is about people. Families torn apart, communities unsettled, a nation forced to reckon with its faith in justice. Truth, fragile as glass, now rests in the hands of those who must choose to protect it or bury it. For Charlie Kirk's family and for Tyler Robinson's future, the stakes could not be higher. We owe it to the victims and to justice itself not to turn away. Silence deepens wounds. Distraction delays truth. What matters now is vigilance, that every fact be tested, every inconsistency faced, and every life touched by this tragedy honored with honesty. Stay with us as this story continues. Share it. Ask the questions others fear to raise, because justice cannot survive in shadows. Justice demands the light of truth.